How did you end up in wood science, Mark?
Okay, how did I end up in wood science? Okay, maybe not a traditional route. I first of all studied mechanical engineering for my bachelor degree back in the distant past.
Yeah, back in the
long,
day.
long time ago.
Brunel was there at the time.
Yeah, something like that. Yes, it was a while ago. But then I spent about 10 years working in the insurance industry in the City of London for my sins. But then decided...
Why?
Well, good question. Good question. One makes these life decisions. They don't always go according to plan and things like that.
Okay.
But
Seemed
anyway,
like a good idea at the time.
It seemed like a good idea at the time. And yeah, it was a kind of fun time, 80s in London. So
I'm sure it was.
but then, yes, decided that actually there was probably a bit more to life than this, and was looking around to continue studying, and realised after looking through some prospectuses that actually you can study about wood, and that caught my eye because as a kid I was always really interested in wood as a material. I liked to build things with wood, boats and all sorts of other things. And
did you build an underwater camera?
Yes, I did actually. Yes, well, at least the casing for it.
Yes,
it's
the
actually
casing.
worked rather well actually. Yeah. So it's kind of a good example of how you can use the structural properties of wood, even in underwater cameras. There you go.
No.
So that kind of caught my interest, and as soon as I started learning a bit more about the stuff, I thought, yeah, this is really, really interesting, and this is where I want to spend my career. So I was offered a position to do a PhD.
Came to work with me, didn't you?
And came to work with Callum, yeah. So that's well, yeah. That's
the rest is history.
Yes. So it should be consigned to history.
Consigned to history.
But yeah, it was a good fun time.
For my sins, I started off I did chemistry. Yeah. I had pretty traditional chemistry background, synthetic chemistry, physical chemistry, and then a job came up at Bangor University lecturing wood science. I'd never even heard of wood science, so I applied for it, more just out of curiosity, to be quite honest, and got the job. And I remember the professor at the time saying, "Oh yeah, don't worry about wood. It's just another polymer, and it's not that easy." No. I approached wood science with the typical arrogance of somebody that doesn't know anything about wood, and I've been humbled by it ever since. So fascinating material. But at my level that I work at, the molecular level, I mean, show me two bits of wood, like show me a piece of oak and a piece of ash or something like. I don't know. But show me the cellulose molecule, then I can do that one.
That's the interesting thing I think about wood, is that you can look at it from so many different angles, as a chemist, as an engineer, as a botanist.
So, I mean, you learn so much through this subject. It's been fascinating, and the people you meet as well. They're usually nice people in this science.
Usually they are, aren't they? Yes.
I mean, you being an exception.
Yes, of course, naturally.
Right, let's move on.
Okay.
Now the insults have started. How do you see the future using wood? This is potentially a very long answer, and we want a very short answer.
Well, you're not going to get a very short answer, but I think, okay, I mean, maybe I can focus it now, because for the last decade or so I've been concentrating very much on the role of wood in construction.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that the built environment and the building sector is responsible for a great deal of the kind of environmental impacts, and of course materials consumption. Wood is renewable, we know it stores carbon, we know it's a good structural material, so it has a huge potential, I think, as a building material, and we should kind of do more and more with that. I think there are plenty of ways in which we can, in terms of how we see wood being used in the future. I mean, wood in its natural state is, unless it gets wet, and in contact with the ground or something like that, it's actually a very durable material. It'll last centuries. So we can use wood and keep using wood that's already in existence, maybe being used, for example, in buildings or in other artifacts, and we can continue to use them. I mean, there are plenty of examples of very old pieces of furniture which are still very serviceable. So I think we can use more wood, but we also need to be more resource efficient. So we need to be more efficient in how we.
And what does that mean exactly? How do we deal with that?
How do we deal with that? Well, we deal with that by first of all thinking about the design. How do we design things that last longer? So we don't need to.
People always talk about recycling. It's the first thing they go to, and that's the last thing you should be doing.
We should first of all,
well,
and even before that, we should just extend the life of the things that we have. Yeah. So this is something that comes up a lot now in our research, is how can we kind of ensure more durable, long-lasting buildings. A lot of it is down to the design and adaptability of the materials. So I think there's a huge potential for using wood as a building material, looking at the kind of the issues of resource efficiency, trying to ensure that we we need to use this material because we need it for society, but we need to also be very mindful of the resource extraction, and we can do this by being more resource efficient.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of use now, a lot of publicity given to these sort of mass timber constructions and these big towers. And what do you think about these structures?
Well, okay, that's actually, I mean, there's two aspects to this, I think, in my mind. I mean, from a resource efficiency point of view, they're maybe not so good, because you actually do, if you look at the material intensity use of mass timber construction compared to lightweight framing, it's much more resource intense. I mean, you can offset that with the notion, of course, that you're storing more carbon. There's a lot of other benefits from the material properties, the heat controlling properties of the wood, the thermal mass. So it's a little bit of a difficult one to give a very direct answer to. I mean, I think there's a place for both. I mean, the larger timber structures, they need to have more structural materials, more massive materials in order to make them
certainly get a lot of publicity, but I mean, there's a lot of other buildings going up made of wood that don't get the same sort of, because people are used to seeing them. They get a lot of publicity, these things. I'm going to stop you there.
Okay.
Because the next question is a very interesting one. They're kind of all linked, which is strange, isn't it? It's almost like somebody's organised them for us. What should we learn from the past of using wood as a building material? And this is a subject close to my heart, because we talked about bad design earlier, didn't we? The one that I see time and time again is wood that touches the ground, or is really close to the ground, and the way they used to build things, there'd be a gap, and that would be made of masonry, or it'd be made of stone, and then you'd have this splash sort of gap. You see things like drain pipes that somehow are managing to leak over the wood, or you get moisture traps and this sort of thing. So what do you have to say about that?
I think
there's a lot we've forgotten.
There's a lot we've forgotten. I think there's a lot we've forgotten. I think there's a kind of a naivety with materials and understanding materials. We've discussed this before, but wood is a different material. We need to handle it differently. The devil certainly is in the detail.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to kind of design, we need to ensure that wood stays dry and
it's so easy to do.
It's so easy to do. But whether then it's aesthetically the right thing.
Has that knowledge got through? Why isn't that knowledge getting through anymore?
I think probably because people don't work with wood as a material to the same extent as in the past.
Because it was more a craft industry or something.
I think at one point it was, and I mean, if you look, for example, I live in an old log house, and that's now over 100 years old already. It's in fine condition, and there are several other houses around in the neighbourhood. They are being renovated.
Look at the design, though. Look at the design.
Look at the design. They are raised on a plinth. They have the cladding, which throws the water off the logs. Then of course, they are actually designed for disassembly. You can because they're connected so simply. They can be. You can remove the lower logs. You can then replace those, which makes it a very, very adaptable form of construction. You haven't probably seen this, but I've got a lovely picture I took on a trip to the Åland Islands of an old log building that had just been dismantled and just stacked under cover, and
you could just move it around.
So it's very, very adaptable.
So we can learn about this repurposing,
exactly.
configuring buildings using almost like Lego logs sort of idea.
We've become too obsessed with trying to. I mean, I've studied composites. You've studied composites. In terms of recycling and reusing, they're dreadful.
I'm working with wind turbine blades at the moment.
Okay,
big problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So the more we can simplify and use monolithic materials, that makes life much easier. We can separate things, we can reuse them, and I think that's the future. So I think we should be looking back to look forward.
Yeah, well, we can have innovation, but we shouldn't forget all this knowledge, the indigenous knowledge that's been developed over since Neolithic times. For goodness sakes, let's not forget.
It works.
It works. Right.